Hello and welcome back to the Brighter Podcast. My name is Chelsea.
My name's BatSheva.
And my life is so much brighter thanks to BatSheva.
And my life is so much brighter thanks to you, Chelsea.
We love to come on here and share tools, techniques, ideas, stories, our life experiences, and hoping that shedding some light on ours will help to shed more light and brighten yours. Today, we're going to be talking about a hot topic that has been in our daily dubs for the past several days, and we thought we'd bring it to you. But before we get going, as we like to do every time, let's go ahead and take a few deep breaths together and arrive in the space. So if you're somewhere where you can close down your eyes, please do so if that feels good. And take a nice deep breath in through the nose. And exhale out the mouth. Another deep breath in through the nose. And exhale out the mouth. Final breath, biggest one. And exhale. Wonderful. Well, the question of the day, do you like to use the M word? And what is the M word?
The reason we're calling it the M word is because manifestation has been a word that I personally have, I don't want to say boycotted, but I've kind of actively disliked it. And the reason is not just the rebel within me in the New Age world where everything is manifestation, which that is a little part of it, I admit. But usually I'm pretty, as we've shared here on prior podcasts, I'm pretty all in when it comes to the woo, right? The woo is the woo for you, part 1 and part 2. We have those episodes that you can listen to. And manifestation, gosh, for decades now, since it kind of blew up with the law of attraction and all that coming to the forefront of social media and the movie The Secret, it's been pretty in vogue in certain circles to promote the idea of we can manifest the life that we want. And I really tried to do that throughout my adult life using spiritual workbooks and following the guidelines of different spiritual teachers and practitioners. And as recently as kind of like towards the end of my marriage, when I had discovered Insight Timer, the app, the wonderful app with meditations and teachings, I had found this one guy. His name escapes me right now, but he did all these like manifestation meditations and I was all in. I'm like, yes, like I'm going to envision and feel into the life I want, and then it's going to happen. And then what happened is that did not happen, and a different future was in store for me, including a lot of pain and rupture and difficulty, including the end of my 20-year marriage, et cetera, et cetera. And I wound up feeling almost bitter about manifestation. And then finally, I kind of came to the conclusion that for me personally, because I have had a tendency to romanticize and fantasize and lean into magical thinking, maybe a little too much for what is, like managing expectations, like for what's really like helpful for me, that tool, it kind of has encouraged that part of me that instead of being aligned with my inner knowing and basically offering my future to a higher power and surrendering, that's the word I'm looking for, surrendering, and also truly believing that I cannot miss what is meant for me, which is something I do believe. Those kind of sayings, mottos, and techniques work really well for me because it allows me to let go and flow. And I had to allow myself the recognition that for me personally, if I was going to work with manifesting, it just immediately triggered within me a grasping and an expectation and a hope. And it kind of like threw me off balance, if that makes sense.
Yes, I definitely relate to that, to, working it all out and then envisioning the final outcome. Like, okay, this is how it's all going to go. And then I'm going to have this. And then I'm going to be happy, or I'm going to be carefree, or I'm going to just live in bliss for the rest of my life. I completely relate to that. And also, I feel that I have really, in the recent weeks, months, past couple years, I've really been able to notice my thoughts and kind of more along the lines of like thinking things, but just kind of like putting it out there and then recognizing whenever those things that I thought come to fruition, I'm just like, that's interesting, or that's comical that everything is so synchronous and that I did already think about this, or this was something that I had put into play maybe. So that's kind of been my experience with manifestation. It's really like just kind of putting it out there, just thinking about what it is, thinking about the possibilities. But like, as you said, BatSheva, letting go of the absolute, like, oh, this is the end. This is like how it all turns out. This is what becomes of it. Because yeah, I've felt too, whenever I was in those states, that the disappointment or the frustration or this isn't going exactly the way that I wanted it to, or exactly the way I planned it to. And so now I'm kind of, bitter at some point to what had happened. But recently, I mean, it's like funny little things, I think like, oh, I'm going to go into the store and see if I can get a kettle because I don't want to go to any of the other stores. I don't like them. Then I'm like, should I? And then, it's like, okay, I'm already here. Like, just go in. And then what is it? There's one kettle on the shelf. And it's like, of course, that's exactly what I wanted. And it's hilarious that it's there. It's exactly as it should be. I let go of it. Like, okay, I'll just go in here real quick. If it's here, great. If not, no worries. And then there it is.
And that's actually how I found my way back to the M word through our conversations that we've had recently about things like that, because I'm inviting it back in as a form of play instead of a form of like mental intentionality. Because what I realized is that, as we said, to play a mental game, mental manifestation, by virtue of the word mental, it's just all in our heads. And okay, sure, we want to drop it into our hearts and feel what it'll feel like to be living a life of bliss and joy. But we're kind of still trying to control and manipulate with our minds versus what you're describing and what our conversations led me back to. There's another level at which you and I were endeavoring to live aligned lives, meaning our actions are aligned with our heart's desires and divine will. Meaning, what is divine will? It's like the divine within us. It's our own soul's curriculum in this lifetime that we've talked about in different podcasts. And we can be more and more in touch with our intuition, and then our thoughts, mine too, arise from that intuition. Like your example of the kettle is mirrored by the one that I shared with you the other day, which was I had just had this thought bubble up like, oh, I would love to find like sort of like an office space, like somewhere to be able to work and write outside of my home. But I had like different parameters, like, and it wasn't anything, it wasn't a mental game I was playing. It was just like this intuitive thought that bubbled up that this would be good for me if I could find a certain type of environment to be able to work in. And then, as I shared with Chelsea, a couple days later, my sister was in town visiting, my beloved sister Daly. And she was staying at this cool boutique hotel. And I went and picked her up, and I saw the way that the lobby was set up, and people had their laptops and they were using the Wi-Fi, and there was a cute little coffee shop inside the lobby area, and there was parking out front. And I'm like, And it was right by where I take my Tai Chi certain mornings. So I thought this would be perfect. This is exactly what I was thinking about. And I shared it with Chelsea. She goes, "Oh my God, you just manifested that." And I said, "What? Because I hadn't thought of manifestation as being used in that context, but now I'm allowing it back in because I like when it's like a mirror of our intuition or like an extension of our intuition, you know?"
Yeah, I loved it. I loved pointing it out because I feel like that's what it is. For at least for me. For me, it's been bringing myself out of the busyness or the chaos or the rushing of life and coming back to the noticing, to the awareness, to the remembering of what I've thought about or where like where my thoughts have been, what have I been wishing or, thinking, and then like, oh, hilarious. And there's been so many podcast speakers, teachers that I've listened to recently. And that's another thing for me. It's like whenever you're hearing the same thing over and over and over, like no matter where you are, you're like, oh, this is the message for me. Like this is meant for me. It's totally being reinforced. And whether it's your own, like maybe you've heard it other places, but you weren't tuned into it. That wasn't what you were picking up on. And so it's like recognizing that synchronicity. And as many say, like that's when you know that like you're in the flow. Like whenever the synchronicities, the miracles, the magic are showing up, like then you're in the flow and you're playing the game, you're doing the dance with life and with the divine. And I don't know, it's funny. I find myself laughing, like, of course it is.
I love that. And I also love that where I'm taken to through this discussion and this focus isn't to a practice of visualization or manifestation as much as it is taking me to a practice of awareness. I love that you use that word. First of all, it is where I'm drawn to because I found that the more I have committed to a practice of silence, a practice of sitting, a practice of even flowing throughout the day with more awareness, the more my intuition has room to blossom and to be louder, or for me to tune into it. And then to notice, as you said, and be delighted when the extension of that intuition manifests into the whisper that it started, manifests into the actualization of the thing, the office space, the tea kettle, the income that, I had a thought I could make money in a certain way and wow, it's happening. Or, it can be big things, it can be small, but for me, there's a lot of comfort in reminding myself, I just need to go back to the practices that ground me in my inner intuition and that intimate awareness. And then through that, a beautiful world of playful manifestation emerges.
I love what you said there about the stillness and the finding the time so that you can actually hear that inner voice, so that it can become louder. That's a huge part for me, going from, filling every moment of every day with tasks and with marking things off the list and all these things. And just really either scheduling the time in to find stillness, whether that's, first thing in the morning, or maybe it's in the afternoon, or it's right before you go to bed, or it's taking yourself for a walk without any distractions, or going for a swim, or whatever it is. And just having that time to just be with yourself and to hear yourself, hear your own inner divinity, your own inner voice, your own inner guidance. And that's been another reoccurring thing, like allow time for the stillness, allow time in nature, allow time alone so that you can develop. We think about relationships that we're developing. If you're building a relationship with a loved one, with a partner, like what are you doing? Like generally you're spending more quality time with them. It's not just the amount of time, but it's like, what are we doing during this time? Are we talking about, important things, or are we talking about deep things? Are we being fully present? And so thinking about that and cultivating the relationship with ourselves through those same practices, and what am I carving out for myself to do today to get in deeper relation with myself and with my thoughts and my intuition and hearing my own inner voice and what it's saying? Because just like just like working out, just like anything that we do, it's strengthening that muscle. All of these practices strengthen and allow us to, access them quicker in different moments. I used to find that meditation, like I wanted it. I remember when we went to our very first 10-day silent meditation retreat, and I wanted to be completely quiet. And it was probably the most quiet ever because, there's always noises around the house or whatever. And I was like still picking out like the tiny little noises that other people were making, But then now I would imagine if I went back now that I'm able to kind of just block those out and to be more present with myself. So,
well, one thing my beloved coach, Meda, just reminded me of when I was speaking to her the other day, telling her I might do it again this summer, the 10-day silent retreat, we brought up the whole concept of during meditation, how my mind loves to stay super active. And she reminded me, and I was so happy that she said it, that the whole purpose and the whole technique is structured so that we bring our mind and our consciousness back to simple awareness of the sensation or of the breath. And it's the bringing back, which is the practice. And so not to ever worry about the mind going or to your point, hearing noises, being distracted, because it gives us an opportunity in this gym of meditation to flex the muscle of bringing it back, bringing it back, bringing it back. And I appreciated that she reminded me of that because I use that also in my day-to-day practice. I will bring it back, not to, instead of feeling frustrated that I got distracted, feeling excited to have recognized the opportunity to bring it back. So that was like a little nugget of wisdom that she offered me. And the other thing I was thinking about sharing is kind of adjacent to the whole M word is the A word, which is affirmation, because it's another concept that I honestly really love, the whole world of affirmations. I use them occasionally. I think I kind of go in and out. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I feel like we both get on like spurts. We're like, oh, yes, this is what we're on right now. And we're doing it every day, religiously, very dedicated. And then you're like, oh, now something new has come in. Oh, here comes another butterfly. And I'm going to look at it for a while.
Totally. That's so true. Exactly. And sometimes I really love affirmations too. And I really use them. And, I pump myself up telling myself that I am wonderful and I'm powerful and all these things. And then it's so true. Other times, I guess they drop away because I didn't need the technique, in the next moment.
I find myself using them more so, which this is like me coming to this awareness right now, and then acknowledging that I'm going to really bring my awareness and change it. But much like some things, like I think about people's health and, maybe they're not really focused on it until something like big happens. And then they're like, oh shit, I got to make a change. And so I find myself a lot of the times that's whenever I'm using the affirmations, whenever I'm like running late and I'm like, oh my gosh, like being a little like on edge or frustrated. And then it's like, my timing is divine and elegant. All delays are beneficial, like reciting those things. But much to your point, like you were saying, like just pumping myself up on the daily, reminding myself, being my own hype person, like just waking up, just, and I think a big part of that was, sometimes it was seen as like being vain or self-absorbed or whatever. But the truth is that we are the superstar of our own lives. Like we are the main character. So why shouldn't we adore the main character? Why shouldn't we be madly in love with the main character? We want them to win. We want them to, receive all that is meant for them, to find the love, to feel the joy, to have abundance. We want them to Everyone wants the hero to win, and we are our own hero of our own life. And so acting like that and taking it upon ourselves to really, encourage and inspire and uplift and pump ourselves up with that love, with that reassurance every day.
Fucking yeah. Like 100%. I could not agree more with you. And lately, the exact same thing happened to me. I got on the dating apps, as you know, because you were like my witness. And I just was like plummeting into like self-doubt and lack of self-worth feelings coming up and, just bad. And then I totally fucking climbed out of that hole using affirmations and reminding myself, I'm sexy, I'm beautiful, I'm desirable, I'm in demand, and I self-talked my way out. And luckily it didn't take long for me to rebalance, but it reminded me, just like you said, like, I don't need to just let those go just because I climbed back out of the hole. Like, why don't I keep them in the day-to-day? And I love that concept that we can be and we should, and we must be our own hype girl and hype guy. And we have to be the hero of our lives so that we can be the change we want to see in the world. And we can hold that space and be that role model for everyone else. And let's do it. I actually have a sign that I hung over my mirror in my bedroom. And I think it came from one of Tosha Silver's books, maybe, but it's a quote that says, treating myself like a precious object makes me strong. And I love it, especially as a mother who is sacrificing herself for everybody around her for so long in my life. It just gives me permission. It's like an external reminder, no, go do that thing. And actually, maybe this is a good preview to our future beauty episode that is forthcoming. But spend the money on beauty, do the thing, treat yourself like a precious object because you are precious.
Thinking about pumping ourselves up and looking to ourselves. This also, like, not only are the affirmations and us like choosing to give it to ourselves, but then it kind of trains us to go within to find that courage, to find that love, to find that reassurance, that, confidence, that everything that we need is inside of us. And if we actively are looking to ourselves for that and not looking outside to other people, the dating app, to looking at other people for our own worth, but finding that in ourselves and like really solidifying that, I think that really becomes like the root of everything. Because whenever the whole world is crashing down around you, whenever you can go within and find your peace, for me, that's been a lot of the background of what meditation is, of what all these like self-awareness and becoming, self-reliant and inner peace. It's because one day, whenever you go to cross the rainbow bridge and die, like, so that you can do it in peace, because like you're already there. Like you can, no matter what's going on outside, no matter, what external forces are at work, you can come inside and be with yourself and reassure yourself and comfort yourself and love yourself and all the things.
Oh, that's really beautiful. It's probably a good place to end the episode on, but I just want to say, there was something that really struck me about what Deepak Chopra shared on the Know Thyself podcast in his interview that we both heard, that one of his evening routines was to imagine his own death. And I started to play with that before bed. And then recently a friend of mine, someone like pretty dear to my life over the past several decades, passed away super suddenly. And he was a very, very, very high soul, elevated soul, spiritual teacher. And I just had this thought, like, it's painful to lose someone, but on the other hand, it felt like, yeah, he just crossed over. Like it was like a gift of understanding. And I just wanted to add that I think it's not like we're expected to necessarily find that easy, but as Chelsea said, why not allow ourselves the possibility to be able to be that for ourselves and to potentially feel at peace with that? Like it's nothing to be afraid of. So just planting a little seed of peace.
I was also thinking about Deepak And I just want to say that honestly, Deepak, love you, Deepak. If you ever hear this, if you're listening, I know that you are because you're everywhere, that you know that you take this with a grain of salt. But yeah, I was never really tied to anything that he had said before. I never really connected with it. And hearing this interview on Know Thyself with Andre A is like incredible. If you've never listened to the Know Thyself podcast, it is amazing. So do yourself a favor, scroll through, pick one, listen. You will find yourself binging. And yeah, he's really get some great people in there. And the last, most recent interview with Deepak was my time to connect with him, I guess.
Me too. And then I guess we just need to give a shout out to Michael Beckwith, who was also interviewed by Andre in the Know Thyself podcast, because it was a lot about this visualizing and manifestation. And you and I were like, we've got to bring this into the podcast because it was just all over our radar.
Yeah, well, let's just first start by saying that I feel like that we kind of manifested that because we literally were talking all of these things. We were saying everything. And then I started I was like cleaning an Airbnb that we have, and I just like put it on. And next thing I know, he was literally saying everything that we were talking about. So I just had to share it with BatSheva. And then we were just cracking up at like how synchronous it was. We're like, okay, we're on it. We're doing it. All right. So here we go. Win number one is that today I I facilitated at a wellness retreat this past weekend. And so today, being a Monday, is the first day back. We got back yesterday evening. And the win is that I have, with all the experiences and the opportunities that I am receiving, I am also recognizing and becoming more aware of my flow and how I feel after or during or, the post. It's like kind of like a postpartum of the experience. And the win is that it's just bringing me into such a deeper connection with myself and being loving and accepting of myself, and also just like comforting and nurturing. And the win is that I allowed myself to sleep in earlier today instead of getting up at my normal 6 a.m. and doing the cold plunge and doing all the things. I was like, you know what? I'm going to let myself sleep in, take in the rest that I probably missed out on a little bit this weekend, and, just replenish there. And whatever morning rituals and practices I get to are the ones that are meant for today. And then, tomorrow's a new day. So that's my win. And my wow is also going to be with this opportunity and experience that I just had this past weekend. It really opened the door for future endeavors and connections. And I'm just really grateful for these opportunities. I'm grateful for the play, for the ideas, for the excitement that I'm feeling, and for connecting with the people that I connected with over the weekend, hearing their stories and like seeing their journey and feeling like they really walked away feeling inspired and enlivened and hopeful. And that is like the greatest gift to me. Like that is what, like not being from an egoic place of like, oh, I want people to like feel this profound experience, but like from a heart-centered place of I want to empower individuals. I want to help them remember and recognize and discover their own innate power and ability to heal, to be, to manifest all that they desire. And so I really felt that, and I'm so grateful for it.
That's so beautiful. And I definitely want to encourage all of our listeners to follow Chelsea Soulscription, her website and her social media, because she will not only be back at Big Rock Candy Mountain facilitating the wellness retreat in the fall, but I know that she has some upcoming retreats in Missouri and Chicago, and it would be your good fortune and good luck to have the opportunity to work with Chelsea, in my humble opinion and experience. And let's see, for my wish, my turn to say a wish. I'm going to say I just started this evening routine for the first time in my life, just a few nights ago, I decided to really dedicate the half hour or so before sleep to a routine. And as I started to do that, and it was inspired greatly by Deepak and Andre's conversation. And as I started to do that, I had this epiphany that my whole life I have grappled with loneliness that hits at night. And it's lessened over the years greatly. I suffered insomnia through so much of my childhood, teens, and 20s, but it's still there, especially if I'm not just exhausted at the end of the night. And so that was a huge epiphany. So my wish is for myself to be able to fully play with, embrace, and evolve and blossom into an evening before bedtime ritual and routine that is going to be loving and help my dream state and help my sleep quality and just kind of take me to a new level of practice and awareness, to use that beautiful keyword, than I have yet to experience. That's my wish.
I love that. That is not to get back into another tangent, but it's so funny that we were just talking about the affirmation roller coaster. You're on it, you're riding it, and then it kind of falls off. I feel like that's kind of been my experience with the evening ritual. And so this is very inspiring to me to kind of come back to it.
And certainly when, and it's true. It doesn't matter if you have kids or not kids. It's never necessarily easy to go to sleep, like ever, for anyone. And I will add that having kids adds another layer of interesting, distraction, let's put it, like when you need to put them to sleep or if they're not going to sleep and they need to be asleep. So it's, I'm in it to win it.
You got this. You got this. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We hope that this episode, as our many other ones, have helped to brighten your day. And we look forward to connecting with you next time.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
We love you. Bye.